Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Rat's Nest. Last time I was underneath here, I asked you if you wanted me to show you how to put on a Pitman arm, so we're going to do that. I've also pulled the fuel tank, and I've put on those Adams drive shafts. They showed up like just a couple days after I ordered them, so went ahead and got those bolted in real quick, and they worked out great. All measurements worked. They are stout, they are strong, and I'll be ready to put them to abuse because I did order them in a 120 wall thickness. We're gonna put this Pitman arm on. I want to show you a few other things too that have me kind of excited, and then we're gonna get on this rust repair because you guys know as well as I do I've been neglecting it. Many 80s, 90s, and 2000 model Saginaw steering boxes took an 1 5/16" socket to get this nut off. And right here is the problem everybody runs into. They get the nut off and then they can't figure out how to get the Pitman arm off. Now this is what I use. This is Snap-on number CJ119B, and it is a steering Pitman arm removal tool. Now there's a couple other, I have some Mac ones too, some different size ones, but this one's pretty much the go around, all around one that I use, and I've used this on a lot of steering boxes over the years. So this is a tool that is expensive. It's not cheap, I'm going to be honest, but it is a lifesaver. The number one thing when you get ready to take this Pitman arm off is just make sure it's aimed in the same direction when you put the new one back on. Most of them are keyed with a flat spot, but if not, you can always just do this and do that, and then make sure that when you put the other one on that it's doing the same thing. You can match it up with the original Pitman arm, mark it, and then put it back on. There it went. Ta-da! So with the way it's keyed, the only way I can't put it on anyway other than this way, or it could be a totally 90 degrees out, which obviously that's not going to work. So, or 180 out and vice versa. So anyway, that's a pretty nice way it's designed. Now not all steering boxes are designed that way, so you got to make sure that you know which one you're dealing with. There's a lot of controversy on how much to torque this up. The number one thing is you don't want it to come loose. So I've heard anything from as low as 70, which is definitely not right, to 185 foot-pounds, which 185 foot-pounds is a lot of torque. I know that the Ford ones, I believe, on some of the Super Duties were like 250, but 185 is plenty enough where it should not come loose. The biggest thing you want to do is just take your paint marker, mark the shaft of the steering box up to the nut, and then you can always keep your eye on it, especially after you put a new one on, and make sure that it isn't moving at all. Make sure there isn't any play. Also, once you have it on, you can work your steering a little bit and see if there's any play in the steering of this Pitman arm going up and down like that. Otherwise, it should be good to go, and we'll get the steering hook back up, and then we'll work on this track bar mount. So one of my issues here is I pushed my axle forward 1 inch, and I pushed my coil buckets back 1 inch. And that's fine, everything's fine, except the only problem is now my track bar, when I flex, is actually going to hit my truss, my axle truss. And I wasn't sure what to do. I was thinking I was going to have to cut the truss out and actually notch it. But then I get on Iron Rock's site and find that they actually sell, it's a little dirty from that tire, they sell a track bar mount that's pushed forward 1 inch so that you can push your axle forward 1 inch. So I called them up, got this one. They're always thinking ahead. I'm going to have to grind this off because I did weld it in. But I'll grind it off, cut it off, and then put this one on, and then give this one back to them, and they'll sell it in the scratch and dent section. You guys are welcome, whoever wants to buy that. So I normally don't carry a jack in my rock crawler in the Samurai, just because I figure if you're in a bad place, you got guys, you winch and figure your way out. But in this Jeep, I plan on actually driving out on the trails by myself in certain scenarios and other places where I may actually need a jack, and obviously it's going to be quite a bit heavier too. So I have this high lift jack here, but one thing I want to show you guys real quick is this. This is a trail stamp, and at first I was like, yeah, I don't know about that, but actually after taking it apart, it actually bends and flexes really good, and it's like having a shoe on the bottom of your foot. Have you ever had a high lift kick out from underneath you when you're on rocks or in your garage? You know exactly what I'm talking about. And now it doesn't, not with that. So if you guys haven't seen them, check them out. And that's what I put on the bottom of this, and that's what I'm going to use to pick up the front end to get this coil out. I got this new Iron Rock off-road track bar bracket that moves it forward an inch, just like I moved the axle. And if you guys have ever used a high lift to do any kind of work, you know you want to be real careful. I feel a lot more comfortable knowing that the base isn't going to slip out because it has that rubber sole on it. Here's the original one dropping off this way, and here's the new one dropping off this way. Gives you about an inch forward if I were to line it up there. You can kind of see exactly how much forward you get. So I got my new Iron Rock off-road track bar mount in that pushes that front back forward an inch like I pushed my axle. I went ahead and welded it back in after I bolted it up, just like I did with my other one. But I also went ahead and added a cross member, or a cross support going from the other side of the frame over to here. Oops. Over to here. And with that cross support, the reason I added that is anytime I've added full width axles, especially 1-ton axles where it's a lot of weight pushing against there, I want to make sure it's supported going to the other side and just helps hold it together. I've actually ripped one of these off before, even after being welded, and it actually broke my motor mount and peeled back and was hitting against my coil, and I had to drive basically from northern Colorado to central Colorado with ratchet straps holding my track bar together. So that was not fun. That was probably not safe. I was young and I didn't know any better. I do now, and that's why I'm telling you guys, if you're doing a full width axle, feel free to add a support for that track bar drop bracket going to the other side, and you will be happy you did. So I just let everything down, got the jack off here, but I want to show you this real quick. It actually left a print on my pavement, or on my concrete. That's kind of funny. If you guys remember, I have a pile of rust to repair back here, and I've been neglecting it just because I really don't like doing rust repair. If somebody does, give me a shout out, because the next time I come across rust, I will fly you out here to help me work on it. You know, sometimes you feel overwhelmed, and when it comes to rust and body work, I do not like doing body work, and I do not like dealing with rust. That's usually why I just sawzall stuff out. One of the things I want to show you guys though is this stuff, this body seam sealer stuff. So I asked Robby Layton how he gets this body filler, this body seam sealer off, and he said he uses a snap-on crud buster, which is perfectly fine if I owned a business. The problem is it's pretty pricey, and for me, for like a one-time use, I didn't think I could afford that for something that I'm just going to use on occasion. What I ended up getting was this, and this is the Eastwood Contour Tool, and it has a bunch of different deals on it, different pieces for it. I got a brass wheel and some crud busting wheels that should still cut all of it off, and I got it at a quarter of the cost. One of the things I think is cool about it, if you guys watch the book of Boba Fett, the Mandalorian actually used this tool to work on one of his ships. So if it's good enough for Mando, I mean, it's got to be good enough for me, right? So especially on a little Jeep. We're gonna see how good it works getting the seam sealer off at a quarter of the cost is my hope. So we'll find out, and I'm gonna let you guys know the results. All right, so as you can see, actually let me move this wire out of the way so you can see. So as you can see, I have a lot of rust here, and what actually reminded me of it is that when they hit that deer, the back was full of water bottles, and in South Dakota we get major freezes, and so I think they froze, expanded, and then that's what actually rusted out the back, where the front was because the windows were left open. Either way, this centerpiece is solid. Like, this is solid steel. I took the gas tank out, we took the cover off for the fill neck, and everything here above and below is solid. The frame rails are solid, but what's not is everything attaching to it, and definitely not. Here's some of that seam sealer, and that is actually just what is holding the rust together. So this is what I've just been peeling off with my hands. You can still see the rust on it, and we're gonna just start taking it off. I'm gonna just start cutting metal out and see what we get to, and then what I need to get after we get this cut out. Then I'll know exactly how much metal I need to get. So I found this reciprocator to work really, really well for cutting the big chunks off of all this seam sealer. And then once I get it all off, I'll cut all the rust out. And then I can come in here with that SCT tool from Eastwood, and then I'll sand it all down, whatever I need to weld and fix up. Ugh. With this side being the side that hit the deer, the door and the window were open. This part here I was kind of expecting. I was expecting there to be rust in here from just stagnant water and rain coming in. I wasn't expecting so much on that side, which there's just a little bit over there. And then these back corners and back here is really where it got me. It caught me by surprise. I was not expecting that much rust in these edges here. But what I'm going to do, I'm going to take these out because I'm not putting the back seat back in, so I do not need these. When I do a roll cage, I'm going to do the roll cage, and I'm going to take these out too, because I'm going to mount the seats to the roll cage instead of just to the unibody itself. I want it to be a lot more secure. So the plus side is the frame rail itself is actually not rusty at all. This is just dirt and just leftovers from the panel. But that's a really good thing that it's solid, not rusty. So I'm really excited about that. I'll get this all cleaned up, and I'm going to do a piece at a time because I don't want the body to collapse. So I'll do this section, get it welded back in. We'll come over to this section, get it welded in. We're going to go ahead and do the fender wells since I already have it all apart. Then we'll do the front corner halves, and then we'll go up and do the front. So Iron Rock made this nice cross member that unbolts here so I can actually weld my lower control arm brackets to the unibody. I went ahead and made plates that are welding from the unibody brackets, the lower control arm brackets, up to the rock slider. And the reason I'm doing that is to keep the body up, because I'm going to be cutting so much of the body out. I don't want the body to be cut out and then the body to actually fall. So I went ahead and did that, and I also did it onto my leaf spring buckets, and that way it's going to keep the body held up coming off of this on the outside when I cut all that floor pan out. So this is why I hadn't welded my unibody stiffeners on yet, because I wanted to do this stuff. Once I have all this stuff welded on, then I'll go ahead and order some unibody stiffeners here pretty soon down the road, and I'll cut them to fit inside all this stuff and weld them all the way down. I feel for you, Robby, on that golden nugget. I'm sure nobody understands how long body work takes. Alright, so I cut my piece. It's mocked up here. It's not perfect yet. I'm still going to have to do a little bit of modification, but I did go ahead and get my frame marked out right here where I'm going to drill little holes so I can put in the tack welds to keep it all stiff, and then I'll obviously tack it here, and then I'll get this piece. So here's the first panel. I got it kind of tacked in. I still got to do a lot of bit of finish work, which is just tedious welding, tack, space, tack, space. And it's so much work. Anybody that's done body work, you understand it's super thin, especially when you're welding to old metal and new metal, and then you're finding some more extra rust spots. I think it's going to take me a week to do the rest of this body work, and I don't want to bore you guys with that. So my goal is to just get this done, and by the next video you will see it done. I will make sure I'll show it to you done. Also, what I put in here, what I put inside the frame rail after I primered it, is this rust encapsulator. So what that's going to do is absolutely make sure that no rust is ever going to grow back in there. It kind of seats into the steel and make sure everything's good. I found that with this thing there's a lot of places, a lot of crevices and cracks for dirt and water and stuff to get into that I'm going to have to seam seal up. And that's why I got this. This is brushable seam sealer. Most of the time you see seam sealer, it comes in a tube and you run the tube like a tube of caulk and you run it around stuff. In this case it's brushable so I can get in those fine tooth places and really get it knocked out. Otherwise, I hope that you guys will stay tuned for the next video, because I plan on having this thing done And I got a special surprise for you guys. I found a company that I've actually used in the past that has a weld-in roll cage that is super awesome for these things. Super easy to put in, and it's going to be a great video. He also owns the world's most famous Jeep bar, and I will give you a little snippet right here. And other than that, I hope you guys enjoyed it. Thanks for watching. I'll see you guys next time. I should have just pawned this off to Robby Layton.